Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. When my dad passed away 3 years ago, my entire world shifted in ways I still haven't fully recovered from. I was 18 at the time, legally an adult, but emotionally still very much a kid who leaned on her father for stability, advice, and unconditional love. My parents had divorced when I was 10, but despite that, my dad never once made me feel like I was anything less than his priority. He was the one who showed up to every parent-teacher conference, even when it wasn't his custody week. He drove me to weekend soccer games, stood in the rain holding an umbrella over me while I complained about muddy cleats, and knew my favorite takeout order without even asking. He'd call me just to tell me a joke, or send me a funny article because he thought I'd like it. So when he died, suddenly, from a heart attack while on a business trip, it felt like someone had ripped the ground out from under me. In the weeks after his death, I barely registered anything beyond the grief. I went through the motions of the funeral, nodded politely at extended family I hadn't seen in years, and tried to keep breathing through the constant ache in my chest. Somewhere in the haze of legal paperwork and estate settlements, I learned that my dad had left me a modest inheritance. It wasn't a fortune, around $95,000, but for an 18-year-old just starting her adult life, it was monumental. My dad's will specified that it was for me, his only biological child, to use toward my future. A down payment on a home, graduate school, starting a business. Something that would give me a stable foundation. Because I was still so young, my mom was named executor, and honestly, at the time, it made sense. She and my dad had their differences, but they had been civil for years. My mom even spoke kindly of him at the funeral. I trusted her completely to safeguard the money until I needed it. I never doubted her for a second. That was my first mistake. Over the next 3 years, I went away for college. I rented a cheap apartment with 2 roommates, worked part-time jobs, and cobbled together scholarships and financial aid to cover my tuition. I never touched the inheritance because I wanted to save it for something big. A home, or my graduate degree without loans. My mom, meanwhile, had remarried when I was in high school. Her new husband, Dave, had a son named Ethan who was a couple of years younger than me. Ethan and I never lived together for long. By the time they married, I was already preparing to leave for college. We were cordial, but we weren't close. Our lives were separate, and we never really developed a sibling relationship. Ethan, however, was very much the golden boy in my mom and Dave's household. Private school from the start, expensive hobbies, new gadgets every birthday. When I visited, the house revolved around his sports schedule. Fast forward to this year. I graduated college and landed my first real job in the city I'd dreamed of living in. Housing prices were intimidating, but with my own savings and my inheritance, I thought I could manage a small condo. So a few weeks ago, I called my mom. "Hey," I said, excited. "I think I'm ready to start looking for a place. Can we set up a time to talk to the bank about transferring my inheritance?" There was a pause. A pause long enough that my stomach dropped. Then she said, in the most casual voice imaginable, "Oh, honey, about that. The money's gone." I thought she was joking. Gone. What do you mean, gone? She gave this long, weary sigh, like I was a child pestering her. Well, over the last few years, I had to dip into it for some important expenses. Important expenses? Like what? Like Ethan's tuition, for one. Private school isn't cheap, you know. And his hockey travel tournaments. You remember those, right? They were great opportunities for him. Oh, and his car for his 18th birthday. We couldn't just send him to college without a reliable vehicle. It's all benefited the family. I was so stunned I actually laughed. That disbelieving, slightly hysterical laugh that bubbles up when something is too absurd to process. "Mom, that was my money. Dad left that for me." She sounded almost offended. "He left it for our family. And Ethan's your family now, too. His success reflects well on all of us. Don't you want him to have the best opportunities?" I couldn't even speak for a few seconds. My ears were ringing. This wasn't her money. She hadn't added a single cent to it. It was the last thing my father had done to make sure I had a good future. And she had siphoned it away, dollar by dollar, to fund her stepson's elite education, his sports trips, and a shiny car. The worst part? She said it like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. When I told her this was theft, she scoffed. "Don't be dramatic. You're young. You have plenty of time to make your own money. Ethan needed it more than you did." A few days later, Ethan himself called me. His tone was awkward, like he was reading from a script. "I just wanted to say thanks for helping out with my school and hockey stuff the last few years. I know you didn't have to, but it meant a lot." I almost dropped my phone. My mom had told him that I'd chosen to give up my inheritance for him. She'd turned it into some noble sacrifice I made for the good of the family, instead of what it actually was: theft without my knowledge or consent. When I confronted her again, she doubled down. "You're being selfish and ungrateful. I've done so much for this family, and this is how you repay me? Petty arguments over money? I was just trying to give both my children equal opportunities." I said, "You didn't give us equal opportunities. You took from one to give to the other. That's not equality. That's favoritism." She burst into tears, saying she never thought I'd turn on her like this, and family is supposed to support each other. She kept repeating that I was lucky to have a degree already, and that Ethan still needs help. But here's the thing. I'm starting my adult life from scratch. That money was my safety net, my chance to get ahead. And now it's gone, spent on someone I barely know, for things I never agreed to fund. It's not just money, it's trust. It's my dad's last gift to me. And my mom took it without asking, without telling me, and without a shred of remorse. Now she's telling extended family that I'm blowing things out of proportion and turning my back on family over a little money. Some of them are buying her story. A few have hinted I should just let it go to keep the peace. But I can't. Because if I let it go, I'm saying it's okay for her to steal from me. I'm saying my dad's wishes didn't matter. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for being furious and for saying I don't know if I can forgive her? Not the a-hole. This wasn't a loan. This wasn't family money. This was OP's father's last act of love to secure OP's future. OP's mother stole from OP. She didn't just dip into it. She systematically drained it without OP's consent to bankroll luxuries for someone who is not even her biological child. And the audacity to twist it into some noble gift OP gave her stepbrother? That's manipulative and disgusting. She betrayed OP's trust in the most personal way possible. Honestly, I'd be talking to a lawyer. Executor or not, she had a fiduciary duty to act in OP's best interest, and she clearly didn't. And now let's hear community's opinion. This isn't just about money. It's about erasing your father's wishes. He didn't work his whole life, save that money, and leave it for you, just so your mother could use it to pay for a shiny car and sports trips for her new husband's son. She took away something that could have set you up for decades and gave it to a kid you barely know. And then she had the gall to make you look like you chose to do it. That's calculated manipulation, not the a-hole in every sense. In fact, you're being way calmer than most people would in your position. The worst part of this is that she's not even sorry. She's not panicking, not trying to make amends, not scrambling to replace what she took. She's just gaslighting you into believing you're selfish for being upset. That's not remorse, that's arrogance. She's already rewritten the story, so she's the noble mother who treated both children equally, and you're the ungrateful daughter. It's sick, not the a-hole, and I would seriously consider cutting contact, because people like this don't change. They just find new ways to take from you. Not the a-hole. She abused her role as executor, which is a legal responsibility, to spend your inheritance on things that had nothing to do with you. You didn't agree to this, you didn't benefit from it, and you certainly didn't consent to being portrayed as the generous sister who funded Ethan's privileged life. I'd be beyond furious. And the "it benefits you too" line. Please. How exactly does a car for your stepbrother or his hockey tournament benefit you when you weren't even living there? That's pure justification after the fact. You have every right to feel betrayed and to walk away from this relationship if you need to. Update. I took the advice so many of you gave me. I spoke to a lawyer. I brought him every document I had, my dad's will, proof of the inheritance, bank statements my mom had sent me over the years, which, by the way, were heavily edited, and my text messages with her admitting she dipped into it for Ethan's tuition, travel, and car. The lawyer's face was stone cold. He said what my mom did wasn't just bad parenting or favoritism. It was a breach of fiduciary duty as executor. In plain English, she had a legal obligation to act in my best interest, and she didn't. That means I can sue her for the full amount, plus damages. Filing the lawsuit was one of the hardest decisions of my life. Not because I have any doubt she's guilty, but because this is my mother. I never wanted it to come to this. I wanted her to admit she was wrong, to apologize, to try to make things right. But she never did. She just kept insisting I was selfish and ruining the family over a little money. When she got served, she didn't call me to explain, to cry, to beg for understanding. She called me screaming, telling me I was an ungrateful brat, that I'd destroyed our relationship forever, and that I was dead to her. Then she hung up. A few hours later, my aunt called to tell me my mom had made an official family announcement. She was disowning me. Apparently, I'm no longer her daughter, and she's cutting me out of her will. Which is hilarious, considering she's already shown me exactly how little she respects wills in the first place. Do I feel sad? Yes. Heartbroken even. This isn't the outcome I ever imagined when I thought about my life after my dad's death. But I also feel lighter, like I'm finally standing up for myself in a way I never have before. I don't know what the court will decide. I do know this. If I win, I'll take that money, buy myself a little place just like Dad always wanted, and every time I turn the key in the lock, I'll know I fought for what was mine. And I'll know I honored my dad's last gift, even if my own mother never did. I've had a friend, Clara, and we've been close since we met. She is struggling with some mental health issues, and I've always been there for her and helped her out where I can. We also share a lot of our personal lives and stories with each other. Early last year, I met a guy. Let's call him Brad. Brad was quite all right, and we hit it off as we had a few common topics we shared. Making new friends was always a good thing, and I wanted to introduce him to my circle of friends too. Unfortunately, Brad and Clara got into an extremely heated argument. It was something completely dumb, to me. It escalated so badly that they were calling each other terrible names, and I was shocked since I had never seen either of them act this way before. They parted on extremely bad terms despite my best attempt at brokering the peace. Over the next couple of days, I tried to talk to Clara and get them to make up, but she was adamant about the situation being final and even gave me an ultimatum. Either I break off all contact with him, or she will break off all contact with me. I gave her another 2 days to cool off, but there was no change. I valued her and knew her longer, so I reluctantly chose her. I was candid with Brad, explained the situation, and that I had nothing against him. Clara disappeared a few weeks later. She does this often when her mental state worsens and shuts herself in for some time. I sent her a few messages to check on her well-being, but didn't get a reply. This time was much longer than previously, but I thought nothing of it, having given her the option to come back whenever she was ready. 2 weeks ago, she returned after several months and announced her engagement to Brad, then invited me to her wedding. After getting over my shock, I asked why they were together. She said he was there for her when she went through a tough time, and he was her world. I turned down her invitation and said I would not like to attend. She got upset and said that I should put my differences with him aside. I said I had no differences with him. It was her I had an issue with. She told me to cut him out and went and got engaged with him. I feel like I was made to be the fool. Since then, her friends have been hounding me saying I should get over myself, stop being jealous, and that I was never in a relationship with Brad in the first place. I feel like this isn't about Brad at all, but everyone seems to disagree. Am I the a-hole for turning it down? Not the a-hole. That argument sounds more like barely simmering S-tension in hindsight. Cut them both out and tell your friends that you aren't going to be petty to make them choose sides, but you'll absolutely not be around Friend and Brad anymore. Not the a-hole. It appears Clara is hiding behind her mental health issues and is really just an a-hole. I would walk away from both of these dingbats and find some new friends who don't need constant therapy. Whoa, that's the craziest thing I've read in a while. Brings back middle school memories. Friend A telling friend B how much she hates that guy. Friend B stops talking to that guy, only to find out that friend A and guy are now an item. You're absolutely right. This is about your friend and not about Brad. I'm sorry you're going through this. Not the a-hole. So, my wife, 26 female, and I, 28 male, have been married for a year and began trying to conceive in September. No luck so far, but the doctor did say at our first appointment it typically takes close to a year for most couples to conceive. She's been telling people that she's infertile, which isn't true. Doctor said she isn't. My wife and I went to my work Christmas party in mid-December, where my wife met my co-worker's wife. Let's call her Mary, and they took a liking to each other. Mary was pregnant and invited my wife to her baby shower, which was yesterday, and my wife sounded excited to go. I asked her when we were alone if she thinks she'll be fine. I know my wife, and I know what typically bothers her. I knew she wouldn't bask in happiness over someone else's pregnancy, so I urged her to think it through. She said she's fine, and she was excited, so she went. The baby shower was yesterday. About 40 minutes in, she calls me and asks me to come. I was at a cafe nearby because I knew she wouldn't stay long. I find her at the entrance of the house crying and a bunch of women consoling her. When she saw me, she came to me and pulled me to the garden to talk. She said she was dancing and looked at Mary's pregnant belly and couldn't take it anymore. Started crying and ran out. All of Mary's friends followed her out to console her. I consoled her myself and said, "Okay, let's go, babe. Where do you want to go? We can go for a drive so you can feel better." She looked at me weird and asked why she would leave. I asked why she would stay. She said she feels better now and can go have a good time. I sighed and said, "Babe, you know that's not going to happen, and I doubt the attention will be on Mary after this, and that's not great. It's her baby shower, and she deserves to be celebrated. I can't see how people are going to shift their focus from consoling you to celebrating her if you're still there." She rolled her eyes at me and said she was going back in and that I could leave. 3 hours later, the party was nearing its end, so I go back to pick her up. My coworker and I stepped into the house, and lo and behold, everyone is sitting in a circle with my wife being the center of attention. Coworker looked for his wife, and she wasn't there at all. He called her, and she said she had left ages ago. My wife and I entered the car, and I first asked her how she was feeling, and we spoke about it for a few minutes. I then asked her what happened and why Mary left. She said, "Oh crap, Mary. I forgot to say bye to her." I told her Mary left ages ago. I then said, "I know you're going through a hard time, but why on earth would you and her friends do this? If they consoled you for a few minutes, that's fine, but the entire party? We really should have left earlier." She looked at me so offended and said, "Are you Mary's husband or mine?" We stared at each other for a while and just drove home in silence. I told her I want to talk to her this morning to sort things out, but she ignored me and left the house. Not the a-hole. Your wife turned someone else's celebration into her own pity party, to the point that the guest of honor left her own shower and doesn't realize she did anything wrong? Do you really want to have a child with a woman like that? I wouldn't stay around, even if she was going to therapy, and I doubt she would. She has been lying to people, saying she is infertile. She is attention-seeking and completely insensitive to other people's needs. I am the one to exaggerate now, but if she gets a child, I can see her using her child to draw attention to herself. I don't really know where to start with this. Your wife sounds like a lot. You've only been trying to conceive since September. That's hardly any time at all. It's very unusual to get pregnant straight away. There's no evidence there's an issue, yet she's acting like she's having fertility issues, which is very attention-seeking behavior and pretty insensitive to people with real problems. Then she meets this woman just a few weeks ago, goes to her baby shower and completely ruins it and makes it all about herself. That's really horrible. Not the a-hole for telling her she shouldn't have stayed. You're completely right. But you're a little bit the a-hole for enabling your wife's unhinged behavior. I, 21 female, have been together with my boyfriend, 22 male, for about 2 years now. Things have been all right. I cannot complain about anything in particular, except that at the start of our relationship, he kept mentioning his ex-girlfriend a lot. Example, "Oh, my ex had different body features than you do," or "My ex had the same bra as you do," and so on. You best believe I never wore that bra again. I didn't need to know that information. They were together when he was 15 and she was 17. At one point, I got tired of me being somewhat compared to his ex-girlfriend. Also, besides him mentioning her in certain situations, he told me that she's a bad person. His friends told me that she's not that great either, and I've got to see her once, unexpectedly in a store while shopping for groceries. I bumped into her while looking for something, and she snapped at me for not looking where I was going. That was kinda my fault. I am clumsy sometimes. Yesterday, me and my boyfriend decided to go back to our hometown. Apparently, she moved towns as well and lives quite close to us. We were putting our bags in the car when my boyfriend saw her down the street and called her name. They hugged, and he asked her what she's doing, how has she been, and she told us that she's going back home but has no ride, so she has to figure something out. My boyfriend offered to drive her as well, which I didn't have a problem with, until he told me to sit in the back so she can stay in the front. The whole ride, I felt non-existent, uncomfortable, and miserable. My boyfriend didn't check on me. He only talked with her, and her as well only with him. And for those who'll probably say, well, why don't you say something yourself? I tried to, but every time I was cut off by her, and my boyfriend didn't notice, or he acted like he didn't. I don't even know which is worse. I feel betrayed and shocked, since he never showed interest in another woman, especially his ex-girlfriend. What do I do now? It's highly suspect that you're going back to this other town and she just happens to bump into you when she also needs a ride there. I suspect they are communicating more than you are aware of. To be honest, if my guy ignored me and prioritized his ex over me, he'd be my ex now. Life is too short to put up with crap like that. The incident in the title alone is pretty suspect, but opening this post and reading all the comparisons he's made of you and her sealed it for me. As others have pointed out, it also seems extremely convenient that she just so happened to be in direct eyesight of you guys while in need of a ride. Maybe it really was one of those what are the odds situations, but with everything else going on in this post, it does stick out to me as potentially odd. The only way I'm taking the backseat to anyone is for someone's mother or disabled. No way in hell would this ever fly. Know your worth. I'm the youngest of 3 children. I'm 27 female and I'm engaged, planning on getting married next summer and then trying for a baby. We don't want to start trying for kids until we have at least a bit of money in the bank because babies are expensive. My brother is 36. He is married with 3 kids. I'm not sure exactly how much he and his wife earn, but they own a house big enough for everyone to have their own room, plus a car each, so estimating a lot. The kids are all under 10. They have some remaining debt from when they both went to college, and my brother is also trying to start his own business. But from what they've said, this is all financially manageable for them. My sister is 31, the middle child, and a single mother. When she was 16, she got pregnant. She wanted to put the baby up for adoption, but our father, who was very conservative, told her that if she did anything but raise her child, he would cut her off, both from the family and the will. My sister had always planned on being a mother, but never thought it would be so soon. She finished high school and worked part-time jobs until she could afford to move out. When her son was around 8, she went back to school and earned a teaching qualification, and is currently in her 3rd year of teaching full-time. Her son is now 14, nearly 15. Both our parents passed within the last 5 years. In the will, Dad left me the deed to the house, in the hopes I'd make it my family home. I was the sole owner. The house was in poor condition and a poor location, so with my siblings' permission, I put some of my own money into the house, fixed it up, and sold it for just under $230K. My siblings did not put money towards the house, only gave me permission to sell, which I felt I should ask for as we all grew up there, and we all had belongings still in the house that we were able to split appropriately. My dad left my brother about $50K to start his business. Dad left my sister $1K and a letter saying she should have made better life choices. When I found out what he'd done, I immediately said to my sister that I'd split the amount I'd earned from the house between us. She tried to refuse, but I insisted. My initial plan was to split it clean down the middle between me and my sister. My reasoning was that my brother has his own money and is, by his own admission, doing well financially, and Dad gave him $50K. My sister and me are both still deep in debt from paying for college, and soon her son will be going to college, while I'm planning on a wedding and a baby pretty soon. When our brother found out, he was really upset and said that it wasn't fair that I got the house and made money off it, and he felt it was more unfair that I shared with our sister but not with him. I think both my brother and father are being jerks for no reason. Am I the a-hole? Info. My brother was Dad's favorite, and Dad left him money because he believed my brother's business idea would succeed and felt he didn't need any more help, as my brother had previously asked him for $10K for the business. My dad didn't approve of my sister being a teacher, as he subscribes to the those who can't do teach mentality, and it's a humanities subject, which he doesn't hold at the same level as STEM subjects. He was the one who pushed my sister to keep her son, and while she doesn't regret it in the slightest, she would have not done it if not for Dad, who then spent the rest of his life throwing it in her face that she was a mother at 16. I'm in finance, which Dad fully supported, and he approved of my fiancé and the plan to wait to try for kids. So he left me the house, genuinely hoping I'd want to start a family there. Also, When I first decided to up and sell off the house, when I asked permission, I also asked if they wanted to go in on it with me. My brother didn't want to. He said it would be a hassle, and my sister couldn't afford it. I also asked if my brother wanted to buy the house for his family, for a lot less than I eventually sold it for. But he said his family were happy where they were. I've said to my brother that I'd be willing to do $100K each for me and my sister, and give him the remainder, somewhere between $25 and $30K. I don't know the exact number. Because he says he has plans for the $50K Dad gave him, and wasn't willing to share that. Not the a-hole. Your dad left your brother $50K. Good for him. He left you the house. It's 100% your decision what to do with the house. And since you sold it, it's 100% your decision what to do with your money. Nice of you to help your sister out. Your brother is being a jerk. Not the a-hole. It is your money, so your choice what to do with it. I understand why your brother is upset, but it sounds like your sister and you need it so much more than him, especially since your dad was very passive-aggressive towards your sister in his will, despite her changing her whole life to avoid being cut off. She did not deserve that, in my opinion. Not the a-hole. Your father is an absolute jerk. If your sister can't raise the child, he shouldn't push her to if the child could have an opportunity to have a better life. That being said, your sister needed the money, and you can give your money to whoever the hell you want. I, 21 female, met my husband, 20 male, when I was 15. I hated him. For years, I thought he was an arrogant, rude jerk and despised his existence. But when I actually started talking to him, he wasn't so bad. And one thing led to another, and we got married. We knew we were going to end up married from the moment we started dating, and let me just say, I couldn't be more in love with him. We have a 5-week-old daughter. When I found out I was pregnant, he didn't want to keep her. He told me he wasn't ready to be a dad. I told him I respected that, so if he wanted to leave me, I wouldn't stop him. But I just didn't have the heart to give up my child. He never brought it up again. He didn't want to be in the delivery room with me. He only held her a few hours after she was born, and he doesn't do much. I wake up for every feed. I watch her most of the time. He watches her for maybe 30 minutes a day before he decides he doesn't want her anymore. When she was just a few days old, I told him that if he was planning on leaving, then he should do it now so our daughter doesn't have too many memories of the man who abandoned her. He told me he loved me too much to do that. Well, the other night, some of our friends and family were over. Everyone else was drinking except me, my sister, and my husband's best friend. There were 4 kids there under the age of 5, including my own, so we were watching the kids. At some point, my husband's friend asked me how the parenting stuff was going. Now, I've known this guy since I was 14, so I confided in him and told him how I feel. Well, apparently, he told my husband to pull his head in or something, because my husband told me him and his best friend were fighting over his parenting. My husband isn't mad, but he's obviously upset. I don't get it. If he's so unhappy, why doesn't he leave? Maybe I'm being too controlling. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, but you are a fool. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Your husband isn't interested in being a dad. He's half-heartedly there because he wants you, not the child. He already abandoned the baby mentally. And if you don't think that child isn't going to realize he is emotionally absent, you are mistaken. He might physically be present, but he's not a father. He's just the man married to mommy. Edited to add. And think about why is your husband more upset over his friend's opinion about his neglecting his responsibilities than your and your child's daily hurt about it. He isn't upset about what you think and feel. He's upset someone else knows what a terrible father he is. You're the a-hole. Your kid is 5 weeks old, and you're talking negatively about your husband behind his back. You both have some growing up to do. Things will change every single day right now. Learn some patience, and if you think you need it, get some marriage counseling so you can learn to talk out your marriage concerns directly with your husband. And stop trying to figure out why he won't leave. He's probably wondering the same about you. You're the a-hole. You knew he didn't want the kid. You can't force somebody to be a parent. You need to leave instead of trying to force him to love a child he doesn't want. That's toxic for a child. Think about that baby's future. Leave.